Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about Google Forms, which is part of the Google Docs program. In order to access Google Forms, you need to have a Google account, which you should have set up earlier in this module for your Google Slides and Google Sheets presentation. When you open Google Forms, you should come to this main screen that will give you a variety of templates that you can choose to use. There are some for business and there are some for personal. I'm going to just kind of highlight some of those. But the most important one will be the blank template over here, which you will use to design your own Google form. Another area that you are able to find and set up a Google form would be in your Google Drive. If you come over here to your Google Drive and you were to hit New, you have the option of choosing to set up a new form. Once you hit More, you would go over here to Google Forms. Oops, lost that for a second. Here. And you get an untitled blank form. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is set up a name for this form. Now this can be set up as a survey or a quiz, however you need it to be. So we're going to set it up, this first one up, as a survey. If you want to put a description of your survey, you would do that here. And then you can begin by listing the questions for your survey. We're going to get into this a little more in future modules or future topics within this module. And so now I just want to highlight some of the main features on the main Google Docs page. This little button over here, which is the plus sign, is where you're going to add your additional questions. Here's where if you would like to insert questions from somewhere else or import them from another document. Here is where you can add titles and text descriptions. Here's where you may add an image. This is really cool, especially if you wanted to do something fun and ask a question in a quiz that's tied to a specific image. You're able to add videos and import YouTube from your Google account. And here's where you can add new sections. And we're going to get into all of that as we move forward. Up here, if you are establishing a survey or a quiz, are different types of questions that you can set up. Your students or your participants can answer a short answer. They can write a paragraph, a multiple choice, check boxes, a drop down. You can upload a file if you have an essay that you want your students to be able to attach. You can use that. A linear scale, a multiple would be like if you want to rate something from 1 to 10 as part of a survey. A multiple choice grid, we're going to get into that when we move forward to designing a form. Checkbox grid, which is also very similar to the multiple choice grid, and we're going to get into that. You can have them put the date and the time of their participation in the survey or the quiz. But when we get into things a little bit later, in the later parts of this module, you will see that there will be a timestamp placed on your Google Doc if you request it. Just taking a look up here, here's where you can change some of the themes. You could change the colors within your survey or your quiz if you wanted to give it a different banner. Same with the header and choosing an image. If you wanted to do something fun, you could certainly do that and change the theme. Up here is where you would preview your form once you have made all the changes and additions to your form so that you can see what's going to happen, and we're going to be doing that in a little bit. Here are some interesting settings that you can place for your students or for your participants if you're doing a survey. You can make it so that it collects email addresses. You can limit it to one response, which means that if it's a quiz, students can only take it one time. You can either have respondents be able to edit after submission or see a summary chart. As far as presentation goes, this would be if you wanted to show progress or shuffle question orders, which would be really handy if it was a quiz. And then under the quiz settings, there are some specific things that you can do. You first would have to turn on Make This a Quiz, and then you can have it grade automatically, or you can make it so that it's later after you have a chance to look at it. All kinds of things that we're going to get into specifically once we start working with your form. And you will notice that up here, we want to be able to name the form so we know how to get back to it. So for instance, if you just click on it, it'll pick up the name of the title right here, which is really cool. And we will be naming that as a survey. Okay. So once we move into part 2 of this module, we'll start building a form and we'll get into more specifics. One other thing before we go, I just want to show you up here. If you were to send this, this is where you would actually share who you're going to send your survey or who you're going to give your quiz to. You can either send it via email. You can also copy and grab a link. And if you want to shorten the URL, you would just click on this to get a shorter link. Or if you're going to put it in a document on, say Moodle, you could grab the embed code and embed it in there this way. Okay. And then finally, this little guy up here, this just is where you can do some other things. If you want to delete it, if you want to print, whatever you want to do. You can also add collaborators, which would mean that if you wanted someone else to be able to make comments or make changes to your survey or your quiz or whatever is in your form, this is where you would allow them to do that. Okay? So now we're going to be moving into the next part of this module.